Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranam. Yes, Prabhu, you are audible.
Hare Krishna. Akshaya Gauranga Prabhu. So you tell me, when do I start? Pranams to everyone.
Before we start, just a quick introduction about Prabhuji. So Prabhuji, you know, is a very senior devotee, and it's a great fortune to have Prabhuji with us today. So Prabhuji started his Krishna consciousness back in 1983, almost 40 years ago. So Prabhuji is practicing Krishna consciousness for almost 40 years, and after that, like Guru Maharaj asked him to be part of his personal seva. So in 1987. Prabhuji started serving Guru Maharaj. So wherever Guru Maharaj is traveling, Prabhuji was assisting in that. And after that, even then after that also, Prabhuji was currently is involved in many services. Like he's part of Seva committee, the health team, emergency health team. So whenever there's some emergency, so Prabhuji is also part of that particular team. And apart from that, he's also part of Congregational Development Ministry. So currently, Prabhuji is in Australia, and you'll be shocked to know that it's 1:30 a.m. in the morning in Australia, where Prabhuji is right now. So Prabhuji is so humble. So it's a great fortune that Prabhuji accepted this service of helping us connect more and more to Guru Maharaj, even though it's too, I don't know what to say, too late or too early. So we welcome Prabhuji by chanting one time Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Over to you, Prabhuji, now.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Your voice is not audible to you.
It's not audible?
My Bluetooth.
Somebody.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Right. You tell me if at any point my audio is not good, so we can maybe try to change something. I'm using this microphone to see if it's better like this. All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I cannot see anyone's face except Akshaya Gaur Sundar Prabhu, but I'm sure that you all are eagerly wanting to hear about Guru Maharaj. I was happily surprised to receive the message from Prabhu, telling me that if I could speak on Guru Maharaj, which is, to be quite frank, one of my favorite things to do in Krishna consciousness. I had the great fortune to live with him in the 80s. In 1987, he asked me if I wanted to come and be his servant. I couldn't believe when I heard this. But anyway, let us put a pause there and let me go back a little bit into the history of our Guru Maharaj, as we used to call him in those days, Jayapataka. Some of you who may have heard or read something from those days, that's how we used to call him, Jayapataka. So what happened is that some of you may know, if you have read his book, the biography, From Milwaukee to Mayapur. Guru Maharaj was given the order in 1977 to accept disciples. So from 1980, he started traveling outside of India. And surprisingly, one of the first places that he visited was South America. Now, you see, some of us from South America, like Prem Vikash Prabhu and Lalitanath Prabhu, Lakshmikanta, Eka Chakra Prabhu, and others, we went there. He took us in the early 80s and accepted us as servants, assistants, secretaries. So what happened is that amongst us Latin servants of Guru Maharaj, we used to wonder, who is this personality? When I remember when I arrived in Mayapur the first time, this was May 1987. And I remember my excitement. I was a young brahmachari at that time, 20-something years old. And I left my bags and I ran to the roof. I went to the roof to see him. And there he was. He was like a king. When we read in the first canto how Krishna enters into Dwarka and all the people from the palaces, the queens and the royalty, are looking at Krishna with so much love. So it reminded me that sort of a scenes. Guru Maharaj in Mayapur was, like a king at home. However, we have to be careful when we say things like that. One time, I remember in 2008, my narration is going to be a little bit like the Bhagavatam. Many stories are coming in, so you have to forgive me because of that. One time, one Swami came to see him in 2008 after he had the stroke. Actually, it was 2009. The first time he came back to Mayapur after he had the stroke in 2008 in October. And I remember I was there, and one of the Swamis came to see him, Iskcon Swamis, god brother of Guru Maharaj, and told him that, Guru Maharaj, here you are like the king. And Guru Maharaj said, don't say that. He said, Madhava is the king. If anyone can be called the king of Mayapur, it's Madhava, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or their representative, Srila Prabhupada. I'm just a servant of them, he said like that. So every time I say this, I remember that. So going back to the 80s, what happened is that Guru Maharaj was instructed by Srila Prabhupada to initiate disciples. And the different zones of the world were allocated to different devotees to preach and to establish Krishna consciousness. So South America was allocated to His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj. But Hridayananda Maharaj in 1979, after so many years of non-stop preaching, he had some health difficulties. And he was thinking, who can come and help me? If you see, sometimes when you see these globes, this planet, the planet Earth globes. If you notice, I challenge you to do this. In the old days, we used to have those globes in the school or in the classrooms like that. And I challenge you to do this test. If you find one of those globes, you put your finger, where Mayapur is. Mayapur is here, right? You go exactly the opposite of that globe, of that planet globe. And exactly the other side of Mayapur is South America. Okay? So in other words, the farthest place from Mayapur is South America. Chile, Peru, those places are the farthest. There's no other place in the planet that it takes longer to get there. So what I'm trying to say here is that Guru Maharaj, he went to the farthest place. No one went so far away from Sridham Mayapur. So he comes to South America, Peru, That was the first place he arrives. And then he starts initiating disciples there. I know some of those devotees were still around, Prabhus and Matajis. In September 1980 was the first time he initiated there. You see, I remember also the first time I saw Guru Maharaj in 1984. That was the first time I saw him. I have joined 1 year earlier, and I was living in the ashram. And we didn't know anything in those days. Let's remember, there was no internet. There were no computers or mobile phones like today. So we had pictures of Guru Maharaj. And we didn't know them. We have never seen them. But we used to worship him in the temple. And we used to hear stories about this great personality. And we were wondering, how is it that he came? So the senior devotees will tell us stories about Acharyapat, as we used to call him. And the story they told us is that he was an empowered personality, empowered representative of Lord Nityananda. Hridayananda Maharaj, Prabhupada disciple and guru of that area, had requested him in the festival of Gaur Purnima, I believe was 1979. He tells the story that one day he was thinking, who can help me? So he goes up to the roof in Mayapur, where Guru Maharaj is living, and then he asked him if he could come and help him. You see, some of you, I'm sure, you know about Guru Maharaj's personality. I always say this. He's like a young boy. You know, young boys, they are very energetic. They are very playful. So if a young boy goes and invites another young boy and says, you want to come and play? I have this ball. I have these toys. Come and let's play. Let's have some fun. So for Guru Maharaj, devotional service is like that. It's like a fun, enjoyable game. And he always is very energetic. So although I wasn't there, but I heard this story many times from Guru Maharaj and from Hridayananda Maharaj and other devotees. He was very happy that he was given this opportunity. He took it as Srila Prabhupada's instruction. He took it as an opportunity to take Lord Chaitanya's movement far and wide. No place is further than Mayapur, than South America. So off he goes. He doesn't speak the language. He didn't know anybody there, but he, in his mood of pioneering, he took this task. You see, Guru Maharaj actually, he has this vision, and many times he has said this. You see, in the mornings when we go and serve him in Mayapur, in his quarters, often we entered into his rooms, and I'm not exaggerating, and I'm sure some of you have had this experience. When we entered into Guru Maharaj's room, it's like entering into a different world. You see, since the day I met him till today, the last time I saw him, 2 or almost 3 years ago now, every time you come close to Guru Maharaj, there's some kind of energy. You see, he's always talking about Krishna. Everything he does, it's Krishna conscious. Even when he goes to hospitals, he always is preaching, chanting. There's always a Krishna conscious ingredient. Doesn't matter where he is. He's always surrounded by devotees. He's always talking about preaching. He's always busy doing his managerial responsibilities. So every time you come close to Guru Maharaj, it's like you get energized. This is my personal experience and of many devotees. Always people wanting to come and see him all the time, from morning to evening. So when I was living in Mayapur for nearly 10 years, I knew that if I wanted to see Guru Maharaj, I had to go early in the morning, around 6 something, because I knew that at that time he would be getting ready, taken to the bathroom and things like that. And I have to share something with you. Maybe these are some private things, but I am happy to share with all of you. I remember one time in Ecuador, Guayaquil, Ecuador, one of the countries in South America. I have returned after serving him for around 5 years. This was 1993 or 4. And I told him, I said, he asked me, how are you? And I was very sad that I wasn't able to go back to Mayapur. I miss Mayapur so much. And I told him, I said, Guru Maharaj, I'm very upset that I cannot live with you anymore. You see, I have gotten married and I had a kid, I had a baby at that time. So I was, very attached to him. And I told him like that. And he was very kind to me. And then he said, I give you the blessing that whenever you want to come and see me, my door is always open. He said that, I remember. So he knows that he gave me that blessing. So whenever I am close to him, of course, I'm getting older and I have served him since, many years back. So all the servants, Mahabharata Prabhu, Ekanath, and others, they allow me to just go in. And Guru Maharaj knows that I just can enter into his rooms like that. He's very merciful. So often when we go into his rooms early in the morning, he's there doing his exercises, he's chanting his japa with his klika. He has 2-3 servants assisting him, helping him to do exercises, moving his arms, his legs, as you know. And every time we go in, you see, because I have been serving in the Congregational Ministry for many years, Guru Maharaj always asks me, he says, what's the news? He always asks that question, what's the news? And I love when he asks me that. What's the report, he says. What's the latest? Like that. Again, like a child. What's the fun today? What's the game? Right? So I tell him, oh, Guru Maharaj, there are so many Bhakti Brikshas here. This Yatra sent this report. Damodar month is coming. This book was published. This was translated in this language or in that language. So many things are happening. You see, Guru Maharaj says that he can talk about 3 things anytime. He can talk about Mayapur, he can talk about Lord Chaitanya, and he can talk about congregational preaching. So imagine our fortune entering into Guru Maharaj's room, 5:30, 6 in the morning, and Guru Maharaj immediately starts talking about preaching. And so many times I have heard him say things or revelations about how the preaching should go on. One time we entered, and myself and Seva Prabhu, the manager of the Congregational Ministry, we just went to see him. It's so inspiring just to see him there with his orange pajamas, this tilak, chanting already early in the morning, and he wakes up early every day, attends Mangalarti through the Mayapur TV. And then he says, listen, preaching has many phases. The first phase is contacting people, outreach. Then the second phase is cultivating. Then the third phase is caring for them, right? Then we have to engage them to preach. We have to train them how to preach. And then we have to train them how to care for others. So he said it's a full cycle. Preaching doesn't mean only that you make someone a devotee. Preaching means that you make someone a preacher. You know, I remember early in the morning and I'm thinking, you know, Guru Maharaj always has some problem with his health, some infection, his eye, something in the skin, the blood pressure, you know, something with the liver or the kidneys or something. There's always something. I remember once he came in December 2010 to Australia, and he had some infection that he had picked up somewhere. And I went to the room and I was massaging his legs, his feet. And he said, you know, I'm always in pain. Sometimes I don't tell, but I'm always in pain. But somehow, he says, by thinking of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada's mission, somehow the pain goes away. I'm able to tolerate it. I'm able to go out and give classes. So for Guru Maharaj, the greatest pleasure, the greatest painkiller is to preach. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leelas, as you know, Srila Prabhupada's Sankirtan movement, Iskcon movement. So he's like that. One time I was in Malaysia. I remember I arrived from, I forgot where I was traveling, and Guru Maharaj was arriving. So it coincided. The devotees were receiving Guru Maharaj. This is in 2015 or 16, something like that. And then I went immediately to see him, right? He was coming out with the servants. And then he called me. He saw me there. He asked me, every time he sees me, he asks me, where have you been? Where did you travel? And then I said, oh, I went here and I went there. We were doing some presentations, some training. And then he says, you see, he tells me a story. I went to one country and there was this couple that they wanted to talk to me. So I got a little concerned. You know, Guru Maharaj is like, it's our father. So he said, the lady seemed very, very concerned. So I thought, oh no, I think they're having trouble in their marriage. So the lady is telling that her husband is addicted. And then Guru Maharaj grabbed his head and he's saying, oh my God, they are my disciples. He's thinking, no? And he's telling me all this. He got into drugs or he got into drinking or something like that. And then the lady, Guru Maharaj tells me, she is quite worried, she said to Guru Maharaj. I'm quite worried, Guru Maharaj. He doesn't come home often, you know, after work. He doesn't come home. He doesn't sleep much. He's not eating well. And then Guru Maharaj said, okay, what is he addicted to? And the lady said, Guru Maharaj, now he's preaching. He's doing congregational preaching. And then Guru Maharaj, in the airport, no, he's telling me this story. Everyone is trying to listen to. And he puts his hands up. And then he says, I was so happy. I was so happy. And he says, we got another one addicted to preaching. Yes, this is what we want. This is what we want. I want everyone to be addicted to preaching. And he's, you know, like, as I said, like a young little kid telling these wonderful stories. So it doesn't matter where he is. Doesn't matter he's in the hospital. I remember another time in one of those emergencies that he had in 2017, I think it was. He was in a hospital in Delhi. And I was outside. It was my turn to look after Guru Maharaj that night with Marichi Prabhu. And I have been living in Perth, Australia since 2000, since the year 2000. And so we had developed some congregation there. So that night, it was maybe 9 o'clock. In hospitals, he was in ICU, intensive care unit. And, at certain time, they turn off the lights and, no more visiting time. So we were standing kind of outside, a little bit outside, behind the glass doors. And then he saw us. So he calls. So I went inside and I said, yes, Guru Maharaj, what do you need? And the nurses were watching us because they don't want disturbance. And Guru Maharaj pulled me close to him because he had some tubes and things like that. And then he said, what's happening with the aspiring disciples in Perth? You see, it is nearly 10 o'clock. He's in ICU. He has gone through some procedures, some emergency. I even forgot now exactly what it was because he had so many of those. And he's thinking, what's happening with those devotees who are waiting for initiation in Perth, Australia? Of course, because I'm connected to that yatra, that congregation, obviously I will know. And I said to Guru Maharaj, don't worry about them. They are fine. Let's just concentrate on you and taking care of you. And Guru Maharaj said, I'm okay. I'm okay. But listen what he says. But what if something happens to me and they don't have the opportunity to be connected to Srila Prabhupada? So his desire is always to bring people to Krishna consciousness, to bring people to Srila Prabhupada's movement. I'm sorry for having taken you to a merry-go-round of different times and different things, different situations. But living with Guru Maharaj, it's like that. It's so intense that it's hard to keep track. You see, Guru Maharaj, even in his wheelchair, as you can see in the videos, now he's in America, he's moving. Some friends from Malaysia are there. Different friends from different parts are there serving him, from South America, also from Mayapur, from different places. And he's going to Atlanta, he's going to Houston, going to New Orleans. Now he's in Dallas, going to Detroit, like that. So he's always moving so fast. So if we want to talk about Guru Maharaj, it's almost impossible to go slowly because he is like that. So back to the 80s. What happened in the 80s? How was Guru Maharaj in the 80s? Some of you may have known him at that time. Some of you may not. I always say this, Guru Maharaj hasn't changed. Externally, he appears not to move so much. He cannot stand on his own. He cannot dance as he used to dance, play his big wampers, kartals, go by foot around Navadvip in the parikrams. But I have this realization. If you come close to Guru Maharaj, if you listen to his classes, you meet him and see his personality. He hasn't changed at all. It's exactly the same spiritual vibration. Every time he is there giving classes, talking to devotees, people becomes transformed. People becomes inspired. I have observed, for example, how the senior sannyasis, they come to Mayapur and they go and meet him, especially in Gaur Purnima time. I have seen many of the big Swamis of Iskcon. And you see Guru Maharaj again, it's like a big king in that glass room where he gives classes in his rooftop in Mayapur. Many of them enter very respectful. Ranat Swami, Radyuna Maharaj, Devamrita Maharaj, Niranjan Maharaj, so many of them, one after another, come to take association from him. I remember it was very exciting when Bhakti Charu Maharaj will come and see him, and we were all happy because they are brothers for a long, long time. Gopal Krishna Maharaj and many others who come and talk. Sometimes when we are there, and he will ask everybody to leave the room because they're going to talk some things quite important, and he will allow maybe Mahabaraha Prabhu or one of the servants to stay with him. So Guru Maharaj hasn't changed. Whatever he was doing before, with the same intensity, with the same commitment, he's still doing it. He doesn't miss any meetings, no problem traveling. He wants to go everywhere. It's almost impossible to stop him. So the same situation was when he went to South America the first time. In the first visit, he took a translator. He took a devotee who's a Prabhupada disciple. He's a famous singer. He won a Grammy once. And Habi, his name is Habi. So Habi Prabhu tells the story that when he went for the first time with Guru Maharaj didn't speak Spanish, so he was giving his classes. And he was shouting, and he was doing this dramatic representation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime. So they went to one country, and then they went to the next country, and then they went to the next country. And Habi Prabhu tells the story that at one point, after a few days traveling together, in one of the classes, Guru Maharaj was, shouting, not telling the story. He was shouting the story. I think it was the story when Lord Chaitanya comes and takes the food from the Brahmanas. Remember the Brahmana that arrives at Jagannath Mishra's house? And then he starts preparing the offering, and then baby Nimai goes and eat the offering like 2-3 times. And then at the end, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals that he's Krishna himself. So the Brahmana was so ecstatic. I have seen Guru Maharaj telling one of his favorite pastimes. And he took that prasadam, and he is about to eat the prasadam that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has tasted. And then he's thinking, why should I eat this prasadam? If I eat the prasadam, then the prasadam is finished. I better rub it. And he started rubbing it in his body. And Guru Maharaj is shaking like this. So he's telling this story. And Habi Prabhu is translating. And he tells the story how he was trying to repeat exactly. When you translate for Guru Maharaj, some of you maybe have translated there when he goes to Bangalore. He likes to translate, but with the same emotions. You see, when you hear the classes in Mayapur, Sujitendriya Prabhu, one Bengali devotee, ex-Guru Kuli, he's the one who translates, right? He repeats what he says in Bengali or translate into English. And many times he chastises him. Everyone laughs. He says, no, you don't know how to translate. Translate with emotion. Shout, laugh, cry, So this devotee was trying to translate just with the same emotion that Guru Maharaj had. And Prabhu tells, Habi Prabhu, he said that at one point, I felt like I had been electrified. He said, I had shivers in my body. Habi Prabhu is telling this story. He said, I didn't know what was happening. I was just shouting like Guru Maharaj, like Jayapataka Maharaj. And then all of a sudden I felt stunned. He tells that. So Guru Maharaj keep talking, but Prabhu couldn't speak. So Guru Maharaj looked at him And Habib Prabhu looks back at Guru Maharaj. And Guru Maharaj opened his eyes and he tells him, "You are feeling it. You are feeling it." And Prabhu, he said, even when he tells the story, he gets quite emotional. He says, something was happening that I never felt before in my life. I was repeating what Maharaj was telling, and I felt goosebumps. My hairs is standing on end. I couldn't even speak. I was so moved by the intensity that Jayapataka Maharaj had when he was telling these stories. So, just like now, you hear the classes, and it's exactly the same. Guru Maharaj laughs, Guru Maharaj shouts, Guru Maharaj cries at times. So that's what he brought to South America. And all these devotees, I still remember the first times when we saw him. I couldn't believe him. I couldn't believe my eyes. I have read about big other swamis. I have seen other sannyasis passing through, but he was incredible. So in this way, he starts initiating devotees in Peru, then he initiates devotees in Bolivia. Eventually, he started initiating devotees in Colombia, in Ecuador. He travels to Brazil. He travels to Argentina. In the next coming years, from the year 80, he starts traveling like that. So in 84, he arrives in Ecuador. And I remember the day when he entered the temple. We were shouting kirtan outside the temple. All the brahmacharis were there. And the devotees loved him so much. That was my first impression. I was a young bhakta. I was not initiated. And I was so surprised to see how much love they have for him. I was the young bhakta, meaning I was the last one to join in the ashram. So I didn't know him. But I was so impressed with the devotion that these devotees had. So I'm just going to tell a few little anecdotes here and there, because I don't want to make this presentation about me or what I experienced, but it's about Guru Maharaj. But I remember the first time that I went to talk to him. You see, I had to study in America as a young boy, primary school, part of my primary school. So I was able to speak English, but most of the devotees in the temple didn't speak English. Only our senior Prabhupada disciples, 2 Prabhupada disciples spoke English, and maybe 1 or 2 other devotees were able to speak English. So I was feeling somewhat proud. I was thinking, oh, I'm better, and I can understand, and I can talk to him. I was thinking like that. Foolishly, right? So there's a phone call early in the morning, around Japa time, 5:36 in the morning. There's a phone call from Atlanta, temple president, Gokula Ranjan Prabhu, I remember his name was. So he is calling, and I pick up the phone. So he's talking in English, and he tells me that he wants to talk to Jayapataka Maharaj, to Acharyapad, he says. It's a Prabhupada disciple. So then I thought, oh, this is my opportunity. I'm going to talk to him in English, and I'm going to be, important amongst all these devotees there, because I can speak English. So I go to him, I come close to him, and I talk to him, and I tell him in English, Acharyapad, there's a phone call for you. And I tell the details, no, such and such is calling from somewhere. And without even looking at me, he tells the regional secretary, Prabhupada disciple, He says, why is he talking to me? He hasn't even paid his obeisances. Haven't you trained him properly? And I remember my heart sank. I just hit the floor right there. And I was shivering out of shame for him, having chastised me indirectly. He didn't even look at me, I remember. And I felt so foolish, so fallen. And then I knew this is the person that I need, He's a guru. He knows how to put me in place. Apart from that, he was very kind to me. And yes, after a few years of him coming and visiting, I remember one night we were massaging his feet. So Marichi Prabhu, Seva, and others, we had this service to look after him. We were his servants. Every time he came, I will translate for him with other devotees. But we were addicted to be with him all the time, assisting him in his personal service. So one night we were massaging his feet after a preaching program. And I told Marichi Prabhu, I said, I think Guru Maharaj is Acharya, but is sleeping already. We should go. So he pays obeisance and he goes. And I was thinking, as soon as he goes, I check that Guru Maharaj is covered, check the lights are all, and leave. So at that moment, Guru Maharaj says, who is there? And I said, Iksvaku Das, Guru Maharaj. And then he says, I still remember October 1984. He says, do you want to come and be my servant in Mayapur? And I thought I heard wrongly. So I said, sorry, Guru Maharaj, what did you say? I heard Mayapur, serving in Mayapur. And then he said, yes. Do you want to come and serve me, be my servant, assistant in Mayapur? And of course, before I joined, I wanted to be a Babaji. I wanted to be a yogi. So I have disposed of all my IDs, my passport, all my documents. I threw them in the, ocean or somewhere, because I wanted to be free. I wanted to transcend. So I told him, he asked me, do you have your passport with you? I said, no, Guru Maharaj, I threw everything. I don't have my documentation. So he said, okay, so you arrange everything. And then once everything is ready, you come to America, and then you will come and stay with me for some time. I want to train you in Mayapur. So that's how he takes me to Mayapur. So I was able to surf and live with him up there in his rooftop. And because he was preaching in South India, I remember going to Bangalore, going to Chennai, going to Trivandrum, and different areas around those cities. And we will travel from Chennai sometimes to Malaysia. Then from Malaysia, we will go to Thailand and Singapore. Sometimes we will go to Nepal. Sometimes we will go to Bangladesh as well. So that was my route. We will go together, and I will always surf. And there are many, many pastimes, many little anecdotes that sometimes in different places will manifest, will take place. But as I said, Guru Maharaj was always intending to expand the preaching. I remember in Bangkok, once we were developing some preaching there. And then he said, somebody asked him, there was an engineer from Johnson & Johnson, from that factory, that company. And he had taken up the chanting. So he asked Guru Maharaj, we Chinese, Oriental people cannot pronounce Krishna. They say Krishna, Krishna. The R, they pronounce it as L. They say Krishna. And I remember Guru Maharaj was so delighted that these, they were Thai people, but they were Chinese background. So delighted that they have become devotees. And then he said, you see, it's like when we are babies. When we are little babies, we begin to talk. We learn how to talk. And then we go to the father or we go to the mother and we call them Baba, Mama, Papa, like that. And the father or the mother, they become so happy, so joyful. Right? So in the same way, you may not be able to pronounce properly. But if you chant the name of Krishna with love, Krishna will appreciate that. Krishna will accept your chanting. So in this way, I saw Guru Maharaj, not only in South America, in South India, going to Malaysia, going to Middle East, going to North America. Everywhere he went, he was always encouraging people. Very personal, very caring, very expert as well. He was talking to dignitaries. I remember how once we organized that he speaks to the president of the country. And we organized a phone call. We had a contact and we organized a phone call. So one day we had Guru Maharaj in the temple and the president called. I was there because I was translating for him. And the president invites him to meet him. But he says the only time will be 4 o'clock one afternoon on Thursday. So Guru Maharaj tells him that his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, said that do not meet especially important people on Thursday afternoon because it's inauspicious. And he started explaining, you see, that we need to do things properly according to the Vedic system. So then he denied meeting the president. But although we thought, but this is not good, it's a president. And then Guru Maharaj said, no, if I meet him, then we will have problems. You see, after some time, some people tried to close down the movement in Ecuador. And the wife of the president remembered this incident. And she contacted us. And she said, I know you people are serious. I want to talk to your guru next time he comes. And I want to help you. Somehow Krishna inspired her. So Guru Maharaj arranged a lunch with her and her daughter. I remember them coming to the temple, bodyguards, police, patrol cars, and all that. And I remember during the lunch, she said, my husband was very impressed with you by you rejecting his invitation. He said something along the lines of, this man seems to be a man of honor because he's honoring his guru. He's honoring his superior. So the guru says, don't do that. He doesn't do that. He must be a serious man. So that lady was telling, the first lady was telling Guru Maharaj, whatever you need, Swamiji, Jayapataka, we will help you. So in that way, we were able to remain open in that country. So like that, Guru Maharaj always has this vision. Now he's in North America. Maybe some of you don't know this. Of course, he's there for treatment, cancer, skin cancer. But he's thinking, you know what he's thinking right now? This is a secret. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying. He's wanting to finish that treatment. I think it's going to take 6 weeks or something like that. And after that, he's planning to go to South America. Why? Because the devotees are waiting for him. You see, in 1989, he was attacked in Spain, right? He was attacked in Spain, in Europe, when he was on his way to preach to America and South America. So this crazy man tried to kill him, cut his neck. And then he was recovering in Spain for a few weeks, couple of weeks. He went to London briefly, and then he went to America. He rested. His mother went to see him. At that time, we all were waiting in Mayapur for him to come back. We were thinking, why does he have to continue traveling? He pushes himself and continue his tour, and he went to South America. And I remember the day he came back to Mayapur. And after all the reception, Bhakti Swami there, the devotees crying, big kirtans, big celebration. The hero of Mayapur has returned. We went to his room. At that time, I was his servant. At that time, there was only one servant. There was not like 10 or 20 like now. So I entered into the room, and we told Guru Maharaj, you need to take rest. And then he told me, go and get me a little bottle that it's there in that bag, my computer bag. He used to travel with a computer, big computer bag. So I pull out a little oil. The oil is called Rosa Mosqueta, which means essence of rose, something like that. And then he told me, and he was very moved. He said, you know, the devotees there, they hardly see me. Maybe once a year they see me. But every time I go, they have so much love for me. And then they give me this little bottle, this little oil bottle. And then they told me that I should put this every day to cure my scar. You see, he has a big, big scar. So he told me, put me some of this oil, because the devotees there, they gave me with so much love that I feel indebted with them. So that is Guru Maharaj. You know, it doesn't matter if you do something very little or insignificant. He never forgets. And he's always that, you know, loving father. That's his attitude. And whether you're close to him or whether you're far, whether you met him many, many years ago or you met him recently, if somehow you listen to him, somehow you come close to him in some way, physically or through sound, you can experience what kind of personality he is. And that's why I always say he hasn't changed. Since I met him in the early 80s till today, every time I hear his classes, he is the same. He, as Sridhar Maharaj had said, he's an empowered representative of Lord Nityananda. He is a pillar. Tamal Krishna Maharaj said in Abhyasa Puja in 89, he came to give his offering to Guru Maharaj, and he said, you are one of the main pillars of Srila Prabhupada's movement. So, we're 5 minutes away. I want to stop here. I don't want to abuse your time. So, my wife is not here. She's taking rest because tomorrow morning we have another program early. But generally, she's the one who tells me to stop, because I can go on and on talking about these things that for me are the best moments in my life. So thank you everyone for your patience, your tolerance, and the opportunity to share some of these pastimes with all of you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for such a wonderful session. So if you have time, Prabhuji, can we ask if some devotees have any questions? Can they ask?
Please. That's why I stopped.
Yeah, sure. So Hare Krishna devotees. So now is the time. If any devotee has any question, please, you can raise your hand, and then one by one you can ask questions.
How many people we have?
No hands raised, so no questions looks like. So all are relishing
No
so
problem.
much. No questions are
No,
coming.
no.
Great. Okay, Sundari Ramchandran. Hare Krishna. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all
Hare.
goes to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to Guru and
Jai.
Govinda. I was really very impressed with your class this session, and I know Sal was also start crying when you said Guru Maharaj was like, thinking this Prasadam. Mahaprabhu is there, and I felt the same thing when he says that. I was really like started to cry. That Guru Maharaj doesn't want to eat the Prasadam. He was holding and hugging that. It was really very wonderful to listen all these things. And also he says that Guru Maharaj was doesn't want to see the some presidents in Peru or something on Thursdays. Is there any thing that is there like the Thursdays we should not see any of the political people or somebody else in Prabhu?
Well, I mean, you all know these things better than me. I am, Guru Maharaj sometimes call me an uneducated Aborigine, because one time he asked me if I knew the Sahasranam, and I just knew the first line, and he says, "You're an uneducated Aborigine. You don't even," like that. He used to call me names. But according to the Vedic system, the astrologers, they say that there's a certain, I forgot the name, Aksha, Draksha, something, on Thursday, that there is a period on Thursday afternoon that it's quite inauspicious. There's exact times, right? You know these things. So what happened is, the story is like this, that one time Srila Prabhupada was about to meet Indira Gandhi, because Srila Prabhupada was trying to get the visas, permanent visas for the devotees who were coming to help in India. So the meeting was also arranged to happen on a Thursday afternoon, and Prabhupada declined. So, and because Guru Maharaj was serving under the direct instruction of Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada will tell him these things. Now everything is available on the internet. In those days, they only had Prabhupada, So when Prabhupada told him, do this, don't do like that, serve them like this, talk like this, don't do this, don't. So that, he just learned from Prabhupada. So in the 80s, still no internet, not like today. So whatever Prabhupada told him, he told us, and then we said, okay, on Thursday, it's like eclipse. It's like an eclipse. So don't do those things, especially on Thursday afternoon. This is what I learned. I know very little, so that's all
No,
I know.
Prabhuji. Thank you so much. You shared your thoughts. And also we are planning to see Guru Maharaj on Sunday, because Guru Maharaj is coming to Detroit this Sunday, I believe. So as per the schedule. So
It's
please
coming.
bless
So
us.
where are you?
Oh, I am in Toronto, Prabhu.
You're in
Toronto,
Toronto.
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh my God. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Wow.
Krishna.
Hare.
Please, Prabhu,
God
bless
bless.
us, Prabhu. We have to go and see Guru Maharaj and take some darshan of him.
You bless us all. You have the king is coming. King is coming home.
Thank you.
You see,
Prabhu.
Canada is very important, because Canada is where Guru Maharaj took
President
initiation.
Yes. Oh, okay.
He took initiation there.
Yes, Prabhu,
and there
yes.
are many stories about Canada, actually. But anyway, so
Yeah,
thank
you
you for
have
the
to share with
opportunity.
us, Prabhu. Please book another
So,
class and share with us. So you need to encourage us to.
Definitely.
Akshaya Prabhu he's the boss.
I was just thinking maybe we'll extend more and more, but
Yeah.
Other time, I'm happy. This is party.
Prabhuji.
sometime in future we'll have part 2 as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
why
Yes,
not?
Prabhuji. You need to really give more guidance to us and help us to be in Krishna conscious.
So
Thank you.
There is one more last question we'll take from Lalitangi
Please.
Mataji, and then we'll wind up.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance.
Haribo.
Thank you so
Hare
much
Krishna.
for taking us and so close to Guru Maharaj over different periods of times. It's so wonderful to hear your, touching presentation from your heart. So my question is, there are so many things that are mystical about Guru Maharaj. And I've heard that after he came out from coma after the stroke, so he had mentioned, I think, I'm not sure if it's Eknath Gaura Prabhu, that he actually had a meeting or talked to Prabhupada and Krishna, and then had he chose to be here to finish the service, something like that. I want to know if you can share anything on that.
You see, Guru Maharaj said, I have seen the face of death many times now. Same thing, I was there in 1989 when he came back from Spain. And I remember that we were all stunned by sadness, by fear of having almost lost him. This close. And I still remember Guru Maharaj up in the roof in the Lotus building after all the reception in front of Radha Madhava and the 4 Sakis at that time, 4 gopis only. And Bhakti Purushottam Swami talking on the microphone. And he's saying, Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj said, Krishna has given us another chance, right, to have Guru Maharaj, he said. And then Guru Maharaj spoke. And then he said, some of you may know this or may have read this. He said that when he felt that he was cut, I don't like to talk about this, it's very painful, but anyway, when he was cut, he felt his hand wet because the blood was pouring from his veins. And at that time he fell. And at that time he said, I ask Prabhupada and Radha Madhava, if you want me to please finish my services, allow me to stay. And then he stayed, right? So like that, so many times. You must know all these things. I think Janaki Ram Prabhu and Syamrasika Prabhu, Mahabaraha Prabhu know this. They asked an astrologer, I think this is in 2008 or transplant, I don't know which one now. And the astrologer said, this person, he is not ruled anymore by planets. He has a personal deal with Bhagavan. When Bhagavan says, come, you come. He is like, for me, he's like Bhishma, grandfather Bhishma. He can go whenever he wants to go. So Krishna has allowed him to stay, and he keeps staying till the very end. One time, one Mataji came and told Guru Maharaj, oh, I'm having problems in my temple. This, the president, this, the other. And she spoke Spanish, so I was called to translate. So where he gives classes there in Mayapur, there is a picture, a long picture. It's Prabhupada and him walking. It's a long picture you can see on the side. And he pointed at that picture and he said, you know what Prabhupada is telling me there? I always thought I wanted to know. And now he's going to say it. I was so excited. And then he said, Prabhupada told me to develop Mayapur and to preach everywhere. I want everybody to come to Mayapur. Like that. And then he said to that Mataji, you see, till the very last breath, I will continue to do what Prabhupada asked me to do. All what I ask you to do is just to chant Hare Krishna, to worship Krishna and be happy. Can you please try to do that? And I thought, this is so amazing. Here he is. He can hardly move. 70% of his body is paralyzed. And he's just thinking till the very last moment, I will do it. He got very emotional, when he gets like intense in his emotions. And then I saw the face of this Mata. She's crying after seeing this. But that's Guru Maharaj. Till the very last moment, he will be giving us the example of a perfect disciple. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very, very valuable
Hare
association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी हृदय स्पर्श हिंदी वाला ग्रुप जो है वो जो भक्त देखते हैं ना तो उनका मुझे किसी का नंबर ऐड कराना है प्लीज मैं किससे कांटेक्ट करूं
कांटेक्ट कर लीजिएगा
किससे
मेरे को कांटेक्ट कर लीजिएगा मेरा
मुझे फोन नंबर दे दीजिए प्रभु जी अपना मेरे पास फोन नंबर नहीं है आपका प्लीज जी ओके थैंक यू
So on behalf of Iskcon Seshadripuram, we would like to thank Prabhuji for such a wonderful Guru Maharaj Katha. So when I was hearing, I was actually going through the experiences. I was actually feeling the presence of Guru Maharaj and lot of things. I was also getting emotional. So thank you, Prabhuji, for taking us through this wonderful journey. And we all are indebted to you for that. And we would like to thank you for this by chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Thank you to everyone. Bangalore Jatra ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai, Mayapur ki jai, Gaur Premanandi.
Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari.
Pranams to all. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much.